Hey, friendos. Today, we're taking a look at Magna Remora's question. Magna says, or asks, does the program have a toggle system for weapons that you've picked up or any way to allocate different weapon power-ups to the other buttons? All right, so let me give you a quick primer on this, Magna. So first things first. So one, when you go into your player, so you can see here, go over to weapons, weaponry. And so you have the weapon editor, right? So you have this thing called weapon sets. Actually, let me back up real quick. So you have weapon sets, right? So, and here you can see I have one of 20 sets, and then you have weapon locators. So if you take a quick look, your weapon locator is where you assign weapons, right? So there's a weapon point here. So with my particular character, I have a top weapon set, a middle weapon set, and a bottom weapon set. This is basically the top left button on the controller. This is the bottom left button on the controller. This is an automatic, just no matter what, if I'm firing the top or bottom weapons, the middle weapon always fires as well. So, okay. So the first thing to do is you need to have weapon sets, right? So in each weapon set has weapon locators. So you can see here that in weapon set 1, I have 5 locators. So I have one on the, on the top here, and I have one, I think I have 2 on the bottom. So I have one that faces one way and one faces the other. I have one that's, and then I have 2 in the middle. I'll explain why I'm doing that in a second. Okay, so now that you understand that, here you can see your weapon sets. So as you click through, you can see them, which is great. And then here are your weapon points. So here I just used a code for me so I can keep this organized because I have a lot of weapons. So P for me means player, T is for top, and then the description of the weapon. So I have top, bottom, middle, middle, bottom. All right. So with that being said, you'll notice here that under controls, when you click on each weapon, you have the ability to assign buttons. So I know 3X is the top left button on the controller, for instance, and I know 1A is the bottom left controller on bottom left button on the controller. So here you can see 3X is the top Gatling gun. So the cool part here is with weapons, you can also turn off all of these. So you can see that's my top one there. If I go to energy cannon, that's a bottom one. So when you're holding the button down, so that's 1A here. Also, I have an energy cannon. So you'll notice here when I activated that, I want to be able to fire the energy cannon front and backwards at the same time. So I mapped those both to the same buttons. So it's a nice little trick. You can have multiple weapon points all assigned to one button. And then here under the missile tracker, which is what I'm calling my particular weapon. So you can see that I assigned this to button 3X. And button 1A. Again, so then when the player is holding down the top button or the bottom button, they're always shooting their automatic weapons as well. So it's utility. Okay, so that gives you a primer there. So now that you got to have a sense here. So the other side of this, right, is you have your weapon sets. And let me walk you into the next piece. All right. So here I have a weapon room. I highly recommend that you create a level for yourself that essentially does something similar. So over here I have basically, let me just go through this. So I have a weapon spawner. So all this is a player goes into the zone, so I can re-trigger it more than once. And when that happens, I have basically an item spawner. And this item spawner spawns a power-up. In this case, it's a power-up player, no move. And in your item box, you'll see that if you don't have one, you should make one. But you can see here I have like basically that. So you have, so in this case, it's like a power-up, right? Power-up item. So one of the things that's important to know here is that under here, if you go to items and you go to gameplay, you have a couple things that you can set on items. So one is you can set what's called your power-up value, right? So basically the power-up value is it will increment, and so it'll increment by 1 when this is picked up. And what that basically means here is that if you go back in here, so each weapon set is so this is my default. So 1.0 power up would set me to set 2. And then if I were at 3, I would be to set 3, and so forth. So, and maybe I can just show you that real quick here. So, so I'm spawning all these now that you know what they are, and that increments my power up set by 1 each time. So, but you can't switch between power-up sets without doing some other scripting. So So that's one way that you can set up the ability to switch between weapon sets. So you would have your upgrades, you would have your power up item, and then as you pick them up, your weapon set would increment to a higher and higher amount. So it is only possible right now to have up to 20 weapon sets. So just to be aware. Also, this is my super weapon. So you can see I set that at the very bottom here. So that's a slightly different and expanded topic. Okay. Last thing, I think. All right. So let's see here. So let me move back over to this. So also, all right. Put that screen so it can be seen. Okay. Online. So now that you know you have a generic power up that increments, you can't decrement right now, so it's not part of the engine. You can only increase your weapon set power, but you can have multiple power ups that in between. So if you wanted 5 power ups to be able to get to the next weapon set, while nothing would change necessarily in the middle of that, you could do that. So it's up to your gameplay aspect of that. So let me before I show you this other side, let me just go in here and show you one other thing. It's probably worth knowing. So if you go into gameplay and okay, so here you can set each new power up changes the weapon player set. So the maximum is 18. So that's one of the items you have to set. And then the other one here is that you have an item here. If you want to add this to your gameplay, you don't need to, but I use it for my game. And that's if the player dies, we decrement 1 weapon set. So you lose your weapons, you go back to the previous version. If you're at your base weapon set, then there's nothing to go back to. You could also just have death resets in your entire weapon set. So old school Gradius in that respect. So just want you to be aware that aspect is there. So all right, so coming back over here. So these are what I call these are all items, but for me, these are weapon item plates, right? So if you take a look at the items again under gameplay, so while we were looking at power-ups, so there we go. So in this case, right, we're going back to the power-up standalone item. You can see here that we just do it by value, right? So with the weapon item plates, we are setting the weapons to sets. So because we have so many weapon sets in the game, for me, this is a way that you can spawn an item. You can make it fly into the player automatically. So you could change things where you essentially set which weapon set you want the player to have. So for me, it's set 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, right? You also, if you want to be tricky about this, you can set I digress. So anyways, so the main point here is that even if I have a higher weapon set, I can go backwards, right? So here I'm at weapon set 2. This is back to weapon set 1. Weapon set 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. So yeah, I think that gives you kind of a primer on what you can do. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll put this video up for you and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.